there we go.
There we go.
Circulation SIG December. Welcome, everyone.
So welcome. Does anyone have anything problem to share? I have something that I learned, but I will let someone go out first if they have a problem they want to discuss. Mine's more of a great news.
I have a question.
Okay.
So to confirm this, I'm currently working on converting our Symphony Circ map to Koha. And I'm about a third of the way through and up to 185 lines. So is it true that there's no way to absolutely not allow a circulation on an item? There's always an override. There is no way to say no override for a particular case.
Like for staff, no override for
Yeah.
items.
So if staff were trying, so for example, we have temp cards that are in use at one library but can't be used at any other library. So I don't want the other libraries to be accidentally be able to override and check stuff out on that card. But as I understand it, there's always an override checkbox. There's no way around that.
It depends on a system preference, which Lauren was just talking about. System preferences. There is a system preference that allows staff. It seems like there's an override system preference, and there is an override. There's an override system preference, and it seems like there's an override permission too.
So we want overrides in some cases, but not in other cases, you know,
Yeah,
just to make
and
it
so
all
that's
difficult.
why the system preference isn't a good way to go. I'm going to have to look at the permissions, but I think there's a permission, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, really? I'm missing it then.
It might be part of another permission. That might be the issue.
Can you limit that temporary card to one library?
Yes, by specifying that at that library, items can check out on that card, but then say for all libraries, items cannot check out on this card.
I feel like that's a page, like you could do that with a patron category, or yeah, couldn't be an item type. It'd have to be a.
No, well, it can't be an item type because it's for a particular card type for anything that's checked out.
I wonder if the override can not just be like hidden with some jQuery or something.
Well, that's kind of where I'm thinking I'm going to have to go.
Just
yeah, I don't know that there's anything that specific. Like, it'd be great if you could have like a branch limited sort of override, but like there's 7 different system preferences on overrides, but they're all too broad for that situation, I think. But yeah, I think jQuery could easily just hide that box. You can check the branch code because that's on every screen of the staff client. So if they're not in that branch, hide the box for that patron type of thing. You can build that logic for sure.
Okay.
I think that the ability to override is tied up with remaining circulation permissions in some way or another, but I can't remember exactly how.
That's the most fun permission, by the way. What does it do? What does it mean? Everything else, I guess.
Yeah, it seems to me it's confusing. It is confusing. It'd be nice if that was just one simple, on-off permission there. But yeah, what Jason said about jQuery is one way you could do it. You could say, if this, and I have some jQuery that looks at all of our at our schools the students cannot use in our school district, the students cannot use their school district cards to check things in and out at the public libraries.
Same for us.
And what I did is I wrote some code so that if they try to use their account at a public library, staff doesn't even see the checkout box.
You wouldn't have chance put that up on the wiki or anything.
No, I don't think I did because it requires a lot of NEKLS next specific details to make it work. But I can find it and well, what a great idea for a video in a couple of Thursdays, maybe.
I watch all of them, so I'll be sure to see it.
I'll put that down as something that Christopher and I should do. Because we also use that for several of our libraries. They have that, they have interlibrary loan cards. So they have they have an account for every library in the state. And so when they send something like from up here in this corner of the state to down here in this corner of the state, they check it out to a card for like the Dodge City Library. Leavenworth has an account for the Dodge City Library. And what kept happening is one of the non-Leavenworth libraries kept checking things out that they would send as ILLs to Dodge City on the Leavenworth Dodge City card. And so Leavenworth is going, it says we've got like 10 things checked out to Dodge City and we don't. So I also wrote the code so that it works in that way. And it has to meet two criteria. It has to be the branch specified and the borrower category specified. And if you're not at Leavenworth and it's that category, then you don't even see that checkout box. And I could actually show how it looks on the screen if I can find a Leavenworth. Let's see, Dodge. I'll find one that doesn't have anything checked out on it. I can let me find that and I'll show you what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, we had one similar recently where we were hiding the renewal field from a certain patron category because we didn't want certain clerks to be able to renew stuff without the item actually being there in person. So yeah, I think that was jQuery, maybe. I don't know. But it was useful.
Okay, here's one that I can share my screen and show. So this is, if you're at you should be able to see Koha, right? So if you look up the Dodge City Community College ILL card and you're not in Ottawa, this is all you see, which doesn't do anything. All you see is the checkout button. You don't get an input box. But if we switch libraries to Ottawa, because I have this set up for Ottawa too, because they do the same thing. So if you're in Ottawa, you get the checkout box as normal. But if you're not in Ottawa, you don't get that input box at all. And it looks like, I didn't realize it, but it looks like since I guess I've never noticed that before, since the 2205 upgrade, there's that little checkout settings is in there. So I need to modify it a little before we do a video about it so that little icon doesn't show up off to the left of the page there. So, but yeah, we can do a video on that, and it's not terribly hard code. So
Great.
if you put your email in the chat box, I'll send it to you as soon as it's done.
Okay.
Or maybe I should do what the web development group is doing and share it on Slack in the circulation group. Or is everybody here on Slack?
We're not yet.
Okay. Well, send me your email, but I'll put it on Slack as well.
I just stuck it in chat.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then I'll do a video about it too. So
Cool.
Very nice.
All right, I'm going to share my very good news. So, in the August meeting of 2021, we did a video on staff templates, and it works in 2022-05 or 2205 and 2211. And I can kind of show maybe what I did. So I'm in a consortium. No, I don't want to. I've got a whole lot of maps open. It would have been helpful if I'd already had all these things up. So I created patron categories that are not all together. Where did they go? This is what I get for not, I thought this would be like very easy. Oh, here we go. So library staff is one. They're just not all together. Where did they go? They're not there. Oh, because I'm not in the right place. I keep forgetting that. It's in your, no. Someone needs to help me remember how to get to patron lists.
Cool.
It's go to patrons
Yeah.
There we go.
and then top right.
Oh, there.
Yeah,
There we
right
go.
there.
There's too many lists in Koha. So the patron list is where you add all of your patrons and you set up accounts that I did the same way, and gave them staff permissions so that now all 4 of mine with the category of Gen admin all share their permissions. And what I'm excited about is every upgrade, I now only have to modify all of the lists that have temp in front of it for template. I only have to modify those patron accounts for staff permissions instead of every single staff, which is helpful on the new upgrade. We're not on 2211 yet, so like just about everyone's going to get the ERM capability, but not all. Where this became a problem. Whoops. I'm going to because it was in, we had some that before would have had this main box checked because they were able to add, modify, and view patron and delete patrons, but they've added a category to view info from any libraries. And I don't want my libraries to have that capability. We have the system preference for groups turned on, or not the system preference. On our groups in Koha, we use our groups not only for OPAC searching, but also for patron circulation. And so we didn't want that to show up. We wanted these other 2. So I can very easily and quickly. And I would only go back August 2021 circ video to watch how you do that. Because it is going to be better than me trying to explain it. But that was, I got it to work on the new version. It took a while. You do have to have a plugin. You do have to have the batch patron permissions modifier plugin. And we had to, pretty sure we had to basically reinstall it to get it to work. I installed it in August of 21, and then I didn't use it for a while. And then when I started again, we just restarted it. Something's not working. Couldn't figure out wasn't working. And whenever and then I rewatched the video, it worked. So that may have to like reinstall that on a newer version if you installed it way back when. But I was very excited that I could work and it's going to save me so much time in the future, because now I only have 6 patrons that I have to do staff permissions for instead of 40. And it's helped us. We can now keep track of like who has circulation permissions. Whereas before we had no clue who the catalogers were, who were, who needs basic stuff. We've got different categories now, and all of the administrative of our consortium now knows the categories and who fits where, which is kind of nice. As we add new libraries, it'll be easier to keep track of. So very excited about that. That's my good news to share. It was a Christmas present.
Yeah,
Very
I
nice.
stuck.
Oh yeah.
I
go
stuck
ahead.
Christopher and I did a video about the batch permissions modifier, and I stuck the link to it in the chat box. And right after we did that video, I suggested some changes to Kyle, who wrote the plugin, and he probably updated it, and that's probably could be part of why you needed. I know that he updated it because I actually pushed some code into it through GitHub to make some changes that I wanted to see in it. And then I know there's a new version of it, so that's probably why you needed to upgrade, is because it changed over about a year ago.
New and improved version.
Yeah, it is a huge help though for us, because we've got hundreds of staff users, and there's no way I could manage it. If there was a new thing, a new permission that needed to be added to everybody after an upgrade, that would take days of changing the old way. And so it's so simple. It really is a huge time saver.
We use it a lot for like new staff. So like a new person doesn't have access to cataloging and records and stuff. And then once they go through training with us, then we upgrade them to the next level.
Yeah, and I'm been working on a long project. It's been over a year now that I've been trying to get all the libraries converted from generic, like Leavenworth Circ, to each staff member having an individual login. And the way that I handle that is I create just a bunch of I don't let the libraries create new staff patrons, but I've got just a batch of like dummy staff patrons that have like basic check-in, check-out permission. And what I have the library there do is they go in and they edit the bar, they add the, I've got like Leavenworth 1, Leavenworth 2, Leavenworth 3, Leavenworth 4. And then when they get a new staff member, they go in and they change the account information. They put a name on it, they give it a user ID, and then they tell me, they send me an email that says, take this person and put them in the CERC group. And so I add them to the CERC list and update everything. And then that way I can manage all these individualized logins, which we now have hundreds of, where we used to just have, a director, tech, and CERC account at each library. So even that was 150 accounts. Now we have way more because we've got all these individualized ones. So there's no way I can manage that without the batch permission modifier. It would just be a nightmare.
Does anyone else have questions or delightful things that you've learned how to do in Koha to share with the group?
I'm not going to share my things that I've learned because I'm literally just starting out. So the things I've learned, okay. So I'm not worried about, but I'm curious, what is everybody's top plugin? What are the things that you're this is, if you're not using this, you're making your job so much harder. And keep in mind, we are a tiny library. We're in an old church built in 1901. It's just us. We are tiny. So we don't need we don't have crazy things, but I'm just curious what everyone's go-to plugin is, because I want to do the research and figure out which ones would help us.
Good question. Let me check it out.
I'm looking to see what plugins we have installed because it's changed over time.
Fair enough.
We have
Any-
the Edifact plugins, but we have some libraries that do EDI ordering. So we're in a consortium. So a couple libraries do EDI, and that sends the basket to, we have one set up for Ingram and then one set up for Midwest. And so that sends the orders there. And so then they can receive their orders and it creates an item record and stuff. But there are only 2 out of the 38 libraries that we have that use it, but they use that every single day.
Mhm. I guess with that, I have a question of clarification, because my director is the one who does all the ordering, so I don't know, because I'm guessing likely she does it directly through the Ingram website. So I guess I don't know the steps that it has to take to get. I don't know what that plugin does.
Yeah, well, most of our libraries, what they do is they will place the order on Ingram's website and then download some records, like the file, the MARC file. Then they'll send it to us, and then we'll upload it and do like a through the managed stage records, and then apply a template, and then we'll load the records for them. But the acquisitions libraries, because they keep their funds information and their budgets in Koha, from the directions that I've read, it sounds like so many extra steps that they have to take to make it work. And so it doesn't sound very helpful, but it seems like they have to do the same process, but then they have to they upload the records themselves. So they do that themselves. So we don't do that for them. And then once they upload the records, then they have to add it to a basket and then add item records from there. And then that'll add the retail price, the discount, and then the replacement price and all of that. So it adds extra prices in there that they need for their funds information. But most of the libraries do fine with just uploading the records, the item records. It is, we came from Sierra, and it is so much easier than Sierra was. So
And that plugin was EDI ordering, correct?
it's Edifact, Ingram, and then the other one is Edifact Midwest Tape.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question. Well, it may not make sense at first, so I'll explain it. But is there a way to circulate ephemera? So in other words, let's say you have a paperback collection that is not cataloged or barcoded, but when the user brings any of those out up to the desk, you want to be able to check them out to get the circ in there, but you're checking them all out to the same barcode, and it's just a check in, check out just to get the circ number. There's no memory of who took the book, because it's fine if the book doesn't come back. Is there anything like that in Koha?
It'd just be like on-site circulation, right?
Yeah.
There's
I
a
like
Monday
those
minutes on this. I was trying to find it.
Oh, there
Yeah.
is?
Nice.
I mean,
Yeah,
for
there's
the
a way to
local
do that in
circulation
Koha.
thing. Yeah.
Essentially what you do is you create a patron category, a borrower category for, I think it's statistical use. I think, is that what it's called? It's been so long since I set these up.
So I know, so what we did, we actually did something similar with like summer reading. We created barcodes for different things. And I think, because I remember submitting a ticket trying to get it fixed, and the best they told me is they could do it within like 15 minutes, it would check back in. but
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
I think it was just, we created that specific item type. We just created like a summer reading,
Mm-hmm.
like barcodes in their own section, and set the permission for that, or the rules for that one, as it checks in every like 15 minutes. Like that's its
Oh, you
checkout
can do
length. But
that.
you
Okay.
can set the time that things check out for. So like the hotspots check out for less than the books, and so like you can set that. And so I don't remember what I set it to. Gonna take a
Yeah,
look.
we do have that set up too. It depends on whether or not you want to track this by borrower or just have an item count. The
We don't
statistical,
care who the borrower was.
yeah, the statistical patron. I'm looking up the way to set that up because I think there are instructions too
So here we go. I think I
in
found
the
it. I'll put in
the
the,
manual.
I found some Monday minutes, I think cover it. Did you already grab
Oh,
them, Jason?
Jason put them in.
Oh, too quick.
Yeah, yeah, that link in the chat is what they talk about. They talk about the two
Ah.
different ways. So there's setting up a
Oh, good.
statistical use patron, or you can use the record local use on return system preference, but that doesn't work for us because it marks anything you check in as a local use, which is overkill and not useful.
I know we tried that earlier when we first migrated earlier this year, and we're like, where are all these local use coming from? It was like, oh yeah, let's turn that off. So yeah, we just do the patron one.
The libraries that I have that do this use the statistical patron category, which is you create a category and you call the category type statistical, and then you
Mhm.
create a library card for this user. And in most of the libraries that I have, it's like taped to the desk.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so then you could just scan that card and then scan the items, and it doesn't actually check them out, but it records a statistical value of having checked out.
Okay.
But it doesn't actually give the items a due date or anything. It just
Right,
records this thing checked out. And I have libraries that use it with, they have a statistical use card taped to the counter, and next to that they have a like an item barcode. And one of them is called magazine and one of them is called paperback. And so that way they don't even, they don't even barcode their magazines. But when
Right.
somebody wants to borrow them, they just come up and they scan the statistical use borrower, and then they scan the magazine barcode 4 or 5 times, however many they're taking out. And that way they get a count of how many are loaned.
Yeah. Okay. That's what we're after. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Back on the question of plugins, we use the Cloud Library plugin and the Hoopla plugin. Those are really handy if you're using those services. You can, with Cloud Library, it can import your new records however often you want. So they're in the catalog when patrons search. And then it also does some account level synchronization. So like when they log into their OPAC account, if you're using Koha's OPAC, they can see the what they have checked out in those in Hoopla and Cloud Library and interact, renew, return things. If you're using Aspen, I think Aspen can do that too, but we don't use Aspen, so the plugins are helpful for that sort of integration.
And I did put a link to the plugins page on the wiki into the chat box. I was looking at the list of plugins in the wiki, and we're only using PayPal permissions and the batch permission modifier in Hoopla currently. And I was looking at the things that are listed in the on the plugins wiki page, and many of those things that were plugins are now built into Koha. Like there used to be a separate plugin for merging 2 patrons into one account. Now that's built into Koha. There's a lot of those that are there that they started as plugins and they became features in Koha eventually. So
Okay.
Also, I have to plug the kids OPAC plugin. It's great. I've done presentations on it. Our kids OPAC has been well received so far. So
Yeah, we've
that's
got
out
our,
there.
we had issues that we had to get resolved because we put something in weird, but it was showing everything in the library. So the kids would click on like mystery and all the like adult books would come up. We're like, that's not not what we're trying to, so yeah, but I love it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's still a little buggy.
but it's very
Um,
helpful because we have little like iPads for the kids, and typing on those, I hate it, but they just want to click on pictures. And that has been so helpful. And I like, there are things that I want to be able to go in and fix them so that it can be narrowed down, because I don't think ours at the moment can be, you can do like items currently available. It just shows everything, but I need to play with it again. But yeah, love the kids OPAC.
Seems like this is an opportunity. If you love the kids OPAC, you should come to and you're interested in monkeying around with it and fiddling with it. What day of the week is that meeting, Jason? So I know it's on my calendar.
Thursday. Rachel was
The
at our
third-
last web dev meeting, but
Oh,
we talk
okay.
about it a lot at web dev. So if there are things you want to like collaborate on, that's a good time to sit down with Lucas, because Lucas wrote the plugin. And Barbara and I have been playing with it. So if you want to get in on that and we can come up with ideas and play with it together,
Yeah,
it's a great place to do that.
because this is well beyond my ability so far. I've been coding for, almost a year. So this is all new to me.
Jason, is that plugin on the wiki?
It's in Bywater's GitHub page.
Yeah, I'm not sure that
And
that
it-
one's actually on the wiki.
I'm like, I'm trying to search for it. And I'm like, what's its actual name called?
I think it's actually called Children something or another. Yeah, I don't see it on the wiki. Needs added.
Yes, you need to add it.
Unless Caboose, is it Caboose? No. What is Caboose? Never heard of that one.
I think it's one that Michael Caboose started work on.
That would make sense.
And what was that? What did he leave? Like 2018? I'm still friends
Yeah.
with him on like LinkedIn, but he hasn't worked in the koha field for a while.
Yeah, 5 years ago. I wonder if that eventually turned into Galadriel.
That might have, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the list of plugins too on the wiki, and it really needs an update. There's a lot of outdated stuff here, I think, so.
There's the GitHub page for it.
Thank you.
You want to. It does take some extra setup because you have to have a separate subdomain URL for it. And there's some Apache stuff that Lucas shared it at the conference when we talked about it. So you could send that presentation to your tech guys and they could probably get it working.
Okay, I work with a elementary school that I think would love the. I liked what you showed. I'm like, oh, this is fun. It's a play. The only problem with it is I'm like, okay, this is a sandbox that I could get lost in and not come up for air for several days just because I play like, oh, I could do this and I could do this and I could do this and I could do this. And all my other work wouldn't happen because I'd be in there playing with all this stuff I can do. The George mentioned the I cannot pronounce it. Galadriel? Totally butchering the name. Does anyone else use that plugin?
We
Okay.
do, but that's until I can actually write all of the code for everything. So that was how it started, because it allowed us to change it a little bit so it didn't look so generic and 90s. But yeah. Yeah, so we use it.
Okay.
It's not as 90s as it used to be. It's more like 2000s now.
Okay, sorry.
Actually, I think that they've made improvements to the vanilla OPAC.
They have. It just was, I was looking, I was like, that's not like, this doesn't feel where we should be, which is fine because everybody wants different looks in it. You gotta have just a basic, and that's fine. But that's why the Galadriel was really helpful and nice, because at the time I didn't know how to do any of this. So it was very helpful.
That's on my list of plugins to work with and figure out, because I don't like the look of my OPAC.
Yeah, it's
And so I'm like,
super easy. Like it's one where it is not complicated in the slightest. And that's what I love about it. Like you don't have as much control as if you're coding your entire page, obviously, but you have general things. So you can at least get the color scheme you want. And yeah, it's pretty awesome.
That's also one that Lucas developed. So if there's something if you want to use it and there's something it doesn't do that you want it to do, all you have to do is you can open an issue on the GitHub or just hit Lucas up in our web dev meeting and he'll work on that.
So this is the plugin for the web dev meeting is what I'm hearing is that's why you come to these groups is you find out which meeting you should go to figure out to work on the problem you have.
Yeah, one of the big plugins we like a lot of libraries are always using is the label maker. It's an alternative creator using HTML and CSS. I'm not sure what the original one is doing, but this plugin seems to make it way easier and faster for everything to pop up, to populate and match up with the we had an issue with like matching it up with the printers, all the measurements and stuff, but Lucas helped with that once we got it in one. Like it was a pain to set it up the first time. This was just with a weird printer, but he got it going.
Yeah, I'll second that one as well. The plugin is way better than the built-in label maker. It's levels of your pain tolerance, I guess.
In some way, like all of our templates got deleted like last month and there was no label printing happening, but luckily Bywater was able to go back like a month and restore some stuff. We don't know what happened to it. It was just giving us blank screens, but got it going yesterday.
That's why we're a slow adopter. We let all of you that have Bywater fix and discover all the problems that could go wrong on the new. Was this on the 2211 or the 2305?
2211.
Okay.
We're a little behind. Like we wait like 6 months before we go to the newest one, but
I think we wait till we're forced. So every time it changes, my coworkers are like, they don't like it, but I love it because we can actually do more things, but they don't like it.
I guess since we're talking so much about plugins, that is one of the dangers of plugins that I found is that probably what happened with that plugin stopped not working and losing all your data was probably there was something in a point upgrade. There was just some minor little thing that wiped it all out. And that is one of the dangers of that kind of workaround, the plugins are kind of a workaround as much as jQuery and CSS changes can be workarounds, but sometimes the upgrades, even the point upgrades can break them. So it's good to back up your data and make sure that you've got good records of what's in there. Because I'm sure there was probably some way to back up that data that you lost. It just didn't get done because you didn't know that it needed to be done.
yeah, exactly. And luckily Bywater, like every month or 6 weeks or something, they do a backup, so helpful. But yeah, definitely, it was definitely some point upgrade that just threw everything out.
Good morning. I'm Janice. I'm with the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. Some of your faces are familiar from the cataloging group. But we are currently on-prem and we are getting ready to migrate to Bywater hosting us. And with us being on-prem, we had a plug-in development done for printing the placeholder slip, meaning that right now, once the patron places a hold, the whole slip automatically prints. But now that we are moving to them hosting us, the printer is here, so that means we would have to open a port, they said, but we can't allow that. And so they're asking us to try the native whole slip process that's currently in the system. Does everybody use that, or do they do something different?
That's what we use, and one of the nice things about Koha is that the slips, the hold slips and all that are incredibly customizable. And there is a wiki on the Koha wiki, there's a page that's got notice and slips examples. So if you're not using Koha yet, it would be hard to say what you might want to do to change them. But once you're using Koha, you should be able to customize the hold slip
No, we're
inside of
using
Koha.
Koha. We're
Oh,
using
you are
Koha.
using Koha. You're
Yes,
already
and
using Koha.
Yes, and we customized our placeholder slip because we were like our patrons sign. Once they check it out, we have them to sign that they received it. But it's just the process, the way it worked. We had that development done, so it would automatically print, and then the person working the circulation desk could go down and retrieve it, you know, get the call slip from the printer and go retrieve it. And when they come back, you know, when they give the patron their item, they sign. And then when they return it in, then we just use the call slip to scan we have the barcode coming out as a barcode actually, and we have a scanner and it automatically checks it in. But now that we are getting ready to move to Bywater hosting us, it has to change. But I was just wondering, is everybody using the native without any changes? They're using it just out the box, or did they make any changes to it?
So
I
you're
can't
already
think of a
using Koha, but
way.
it's not Bywater Koha.
Right.
Right, it's on
what she's
Prem. We have it here on Prem.
what you're wanting is like at the point of placing the hold, you want to print the slip right then. You don't want to
Yes.
have to check it in, confirm it,
Yeah.
and all that.
Yes,
And I
'Cause
can't
we-
think of a
right
way
now it's
to
one
do that
click.
easily.
but the native is like 2 or 3 extra step clicks. But if that's gonna be the only holdup, I mean, that's what we're gonna have to do. But I was just wondering if anybody else was doing anything different.
We don't have any holds like that. We're in a consortium with 50 library members. And so when somebody places a hold on something, it's usually coming from a different library. So the hold goes to the holds queue, and then the people at the other library routinely, you know, search those items and ship them.
Okay,
So
What I mean, you're in Koha, so it has to be, it's possible. It just
Yeah.
means that code's not coming over. So one thing I would do is like maybe make a recording of how it works in your current system, so you can show other people like George and I what it's doing.
okay,
So we can understand better, because like we're, like you said, we're in public library consortiums and we're not using it the same way, but I think that we could cook something up. I mean,
okay,
like a jQuery solution where you're pushing a button to call the hold slip template to print a slip. I think that it's possible. I just don't. I can't wrap my head around it yet. I'd
Okay.
like to see it, I guess, your workflow.
will do.
Sorry, George, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus there. But bring it to
that's
the web
fine.
dev too, because web dev is where we talk about like breaking things and making things and coding a little bit.
When is
I'm really promoting the
Yes,
web dev this time around. It's next Thursday. It's always the third Thursday of the month. Time is noon for me, noon central.
And which library did you say you were from again?
I'm with Mississippi Department of Archives and History. We're a special.
Okay. Well, it's
We're
nice to meet
archive.
you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, we just use the normal slip, like you check it in when the hold triggers and then you have to click to print the slip. But yeah, like we were saying, that's a few extra clicks to me.
Yeah. I'm hoping everything has been going great so far with the migration. That is one of the major things that's holding us up, because I really was trying to shoot for December 1st, but we ran into that. And so hopefully by the first of the year, we'll have everything worked out.
Hearing you talk reminded me of a question. I don't think it worked. I don't think it will do this, but I want your collective wisdom. So when a patron places a hold or an article request, or one of the many things you can do from the OPAC, you get the message at the bottom of the koha screen. Is there a way to have that go to an email, to a librarian's email address, instead of the staff interface little number at the bottom of the screen? Because all our staff don't always see that. Now, granted, I'm trying to teach them. It doesn't like it happens like once a year. So they don't get in the habit of looking. And that number is so small at the bottom of the screen that usually I'm like, I look at it and go, hey, you've got an article request in Koha. You might want to look at that and resolve it. Or you have a purchase suggestion in Koha. You might want to look at that. The patron gets an email that, hey, your item has been placed on hold, or you've requested. Is there a way to that email go to the patron, but also go to a library, even all the librarian access for that library?
We don't do article requests, so I'm assuming that this is an alert that shows up like with the patron requesting modifications and those alerts.
Yeah.
Screen 2. So one of the things that we've done is we've moved those from down here to over here, but there's no reason I can't see that you can't make that bigger, or, it would be really easy to embiggen that. But I don't know of a way to get it to go to email also, off the top of my head. But what's the selector for that? Patron updates. I don't see any reason that you wouldn't be able to
While George is typing, I'll just say we've done the same thing. I've moved the action center thing over to the left, and my strat is always to just make it more annoying, like make it louder. Red is really good if you want to draw someone's attention in Koha, especially now that everything else is green. If you make something red, it's like instant contrast pops out. So make it shake, make it glow, that sort of thing.
I'm surprised you don't have little skull and crossbones on it, or confetti when
I have skull and crossbones on the hold queue if it's over a year old, and confetti if they clear their hold queue. Although I found out that some of my libraries just sit there and click the button over and over again because they want confetti.
But yeah, you should be able to make that bigger somewhere or another. I'm not seeing it right off the top of my head, but there's got to be a way. So
how do you just move it from down at the bottom to the left column? Like that in itself would make it easier.
That's just some jQuery. And you know what? This will be like the third time I've said it today. I think that Christopher and I did a video on how to move that stuff.
Okay.
So I'll find the link and
yes, you did. I watched it.
Okay. So let me find the link and I'll stick it in the chat box.
I'm behind on my videos.
There's a lot of them, so I'm behind as well.
It's been, 3.5 years that we've been doing these stupid videos, so.
Please don't stop.
No, yeah.
We probably won't, as long as, I don't know how many of you know, but Christopher and I were in the Library Journal Movers and Shakers edition for doing these videos. And, you know, this is the time of year when evaluations are happening. So guess which issue of Library Journal I'm taking to my evaluation.
Well, sweet. Any final thoughts, questions? Check out that web devs meeting next Thursday.
Mhm.
I've never been, but this time I'm gonna make it.
I'll be there too.
See you there.
Excellent.
Sweet
I
guys.
have one question. I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
sure
go ahead.
if this relates to circulation, but it may be. When we migrated to COA, long time ago, the patron cards that we have, we started with number 1. We are up to like 30,000. So recently, I had a patron that tried to place a hold on an item. And no, I take that back. We were trying to renew that patron card and they were one of the single digit numbers and it told us we couldn't save. So I didn't know if it has now transitioned that it has to be at least 3 characters and we need to add zeros in front of those single digits. Or is this something that actually happens, or maybe it's something that we did when we did our setup? Did you try that?
There's a system preference related to card length. And I'm not sure if it will let you, I'm looking it up and for some reason I'm having a problem now and I'm not sure why. It's like I can't pull up Koha the way, oh, that's weird.
Because for our items, we're on like 14-digit barcodes, but for our library cards,
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Instead of, for our patrons, instead of using like a name and an actual password, they issued a library card and the library card is already encoded with a number. And that number is their patron number. And so when they check out, we have swipe keyboards. And so they swiped the card and it logs them in. And they're in with their number, not their name. And it's only those that are the single digit and the 2-digit. Once we get to 100, we will find. And it just started happening when we upgraded. We're on 2211, I think.
there is a system preference called CardnumberLength. And it specifies how long, a minimum length and a maximum length for card number. And so my guess is that if you want to have, ours is set to 4 and 18. So patron cards have to be at least 4 digits long and can't be longer than 18 digits.
I'm looking at mine right now and it's blank.
And if it's blank, I'm willing to bet that there's a default
Okay,
that we could probably find if we looked in the documentation.
okay.
And I'm pulling up the documentation now, but I'm willing to bet that there's a default number if it's left blank.
Okay. I'll do a little digging and reading, a little more.
Yeah, and
reading.
if you're a Bywater customer, I would ask them to, because I'm looking in the I'm looking in the manual and it doesn't say that there's a default.
Okay,
So I would check with Bywater before you change it, just in case there's a problem
okay,
with changing it. So
all right.
So-
And one more question. Is everybody using self-registration? Is anybody using self-registration?
we
Okay.
are not currently, but we have we did during the pandemic.
How did you do it? I mean, what was your process?
Well, we have a lot of issues because we have 50 libraries. There was a lot of discussion. Some of the libraries didn't want to use self-registration. And most of the libraries did, but there were a couple that didn't, and the ones that didn't, it just became an issue with them, and there wasn't a way at the time to say, turn it on for some libraries and turn it off for other libraries.
Okay,
And so what we ended up doing is we just decided to make our office the default during the pandemic, and we would, mostly the issue is that we use a Hoopla, which is a pay-per-use ebook and audiobook service. And so we just made all of those patrons at our library. And then when the pandemic was over, we told them that they had to find their local library and redo their cards. But we set it up so that it just had a very basic process for what we required as required fields, and it worked pretty smoothly. The only issue we really had is that there were, since we have Leavenworth, Kansas as one of our libraries, we had several people from Leavenworth, Washington that went to the wrong website and got a card. It got a Kansas library card
okay,
during the pandemic because they didn't figure out that they were in the Leavenworth,
Okay.
Kansas OPAC instead of the Leavenworth, Washington OPAC.
okay. All right, I was looking into it. I think I kind of have something, but we have, we have a sheet where they fill out and then they have to sign like the rules and regs, no pens, no liquid, no, that kind of stuff. And we circulate, but we don't circulate outside of our building.
Uh-huh.
So they don't necessarily need a library card to search the OPAC if you're not at visiting. But in order to check it out, an item that can be circulated, you have to come to our library.
Right.
And so, like if somebody was coming from out of state, they could do the self-registration, and then when they got here, they could sign the rules and regs, and then they get their card. The issue I think we would run into is if I set a limit, say if I did a registration today and you got 7 days to come in and actually sign the regs and get your physical card, I think that day will lapse for a lot of people. And we'll
Probably,
yeah. So I don't even know if it's worth it if that will be happening a lot.
I'm pretty sure that you can set that it doesn't have to be 7 days. You
Okay.
could probably set it for 30 days or 45 days, or I'm pretty sure that's a system preference too, for how
Okay.
long the registration stays active. I'm not sure where the self-registration, I'm not sure where those settings are in Koha because I hardly ever use them.
I think there's system preferences for, do you want to turn it on, how you want to do it?
Okay.
And even your card numbers, like if you have it where it's populating or not populating, those are system preferences. And Michelle was saying your patron category expiration dates, that is another place that could be overwrite. You could have a system preference and a patron category expiration date in conflict with each other.
Okay.
So you would
Yeah.
look at both places.
Okay.
There
I'll
is
take a look at that also.
So there is one of the steps in creating the self-registration and setting up the self-registration is you create a borrower category that's just for the self-registered patrons.
Mhm.
And then there's a patron self-registration expired temporary account delay. That's one word system preference.
Okay.
But you can set that for however many days you want. So you could set it for 7 days or 100 days or 1,000 days, and that would be how long the patron would have to come in to get their actual card before the self-registered account expired. So
Okay. Well, thank you.
sure.
All right. Well, we're past the hour. So I will see everyone in the new year. I hope you have Merry Christmas, well, Hanukkah's already passed. Fun holidays for the next couple of weeks. And I will see you again in January. Y'all have a great
All
day.
right.